the gap, standing for Jesus. Standing in the gap for family and friends. Standing in the gap, one love for all, so we all can make it in.
We know God gave us His only Son, so so that we can live in the midst of this world in our salvation. But He loved the world so much that He put us right in the middle of it, and He wants us to spread His word, the Great Commission. And say, how do you do that? You can't do that unless you understand what's going on in the world. So we try to keep you updated on current events. And as I said, in this season there's so much that we can focus on in current events, and this is Marvel's job to do that. She always comes up with something, because there's always something to come up with. So we trust that she's going to bring it to you now. Gap News.
I'm back. Woo, we've been having some weather. Not here in Cincinnati so much, but nationally, we've had, who ever heard of 200-year hurricanes in 2 weeks? That's what we're going to talk about today.
A powerful hurricane has made landfall on Florida's Gulf Coast just weeks after Hurricane Helene slammed the southeast with deadly wind and rain. Hurricanes as intense as Helene are now 2.5 times more likely in the region than before, according to a new analysis by climate scientists at World Weather Attribution. So where they were once expected every 130 years on average, they can now be expected about once every 53 years. So why is this happening? Well, the WWA says that fossil fuels are to blame. They found that the extra warm waters off the Gulf that supercharged Hurricane Helene last month were made up to 500 times more likely by fossil fuel pollution. And that warm water fuels storms with more energy to strengthen and grow. The results of that will be more devastation, more flooding, and more deaths.
And flooding there. Helene, the deadliest hurricane to hit the mainland since Katrina nearly 2 decades ago. And with the planet warmer than ever because of climate change, experts say hurricanes like these are the wave of the future. And it means no one's really safe anymore. NBC's Jesse Kirsch digs deeper in our Sunday Focus.
Tucked away deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains, Asheville, North Carolina was considered a little slice of paradise. Some called it a climate haven, suggesting it was immune to extreme weather. But last week, that paradise turned out to be an illusion.
Oh my God.
Helene battering the area for days, ripping apart homes, washing out roads, toppling trees, and cutting off entire towns.
It looks like a movie. It doesn't even look real. It looks like somebody took the road, it looks like Play-Doh, and just like threw it to the sides. The damage is astronomical.
And while Helene made landfall in Florida, its path of destruction stretched hundreds of miles across the southeast.
This is an historic hurricane.
New research out this week says there is strong evidence human-driven climate change strengthened Helene's destructive power. One study saying it made the storm's rainfall up to 20% heavier and its winds 7% stronger.
We're seeing these events that are boosted by climate change, stronger, wetter, lasting longer.
Another report found that a warmer climate led to 50% more rain over parts of the Carolinas and Georgia than would have been expected. These wetter, more powerful storms wreaking havoc in areas not used to getting them. Asheville residents in particular say they were caught off guard.
We weren't prepared for the severity of the storm.
Whether you live in the mountains, whether you live in Duluth, you are not immune to seeing an extreme weather event that has been made worse by the influence of climate change.
To add insult to injury, only about 2% of residences in the hardest hit counties were protected by flood insurance. And a paper published in the journal Nature this week laid out the hidden toll of these storms, arguing that on average, the true death toll from a tropical system resulted in an additional 7,000 to 11,000 deaths over the 15 years that followed. Why? According to the study's authors, factors like financial distress, medical care interruption, and loss of critical infrastructure contributed to a kind of delayed mortality effect in the years after the storm.
Our study really highlights that hurricanes and tropical storms are a much greater public health burden than anybody had previously thought.
Back in Asheville, residents know it will be a long road to recovery.
We have no running water. We're living off of water bottles and generators, and the city of Asheville is saying the water is going to be maybe weeks, maybe months before they have the situation back up and running.
Courtney, some folks may not be able to make this out, but it says Unity right there. The floodwaters covering that part of the southeast remains covered with mud and debris 5 days after Hurricane Helene hit that region. Video here showing Greenville, South Carolina, the river peaking more than 16 feet above the normal level, flooding out that city.
And of course, it just gets tragic the farther north you go. In the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, the number of storm-related deaths has grown, with at least 149 lives lost. Hundreds more remain missing tonight. The storm left behind what neighbors describe as post-apocalyptic scenes. I mean, look at this. This is Western North Carolina, where cadaver dogs are now searching for those unaccounted for. Drivers in hard-hit Asheville, they had to line up outside of a gas station to refuel today, hoping to refuel. And of course, so many streets and highways in this region are impassable.
It's just devastation. Devastation. It's the worst I've ever seen. Yeah. And I'm 80 years old.
President Joe Biden is set to travel to hard-hit areas tomorrow, and he will get a first-hand look himself at that devastation.
At a briefing today, President Joe Biden blamed Donald Trump for the disinformation that is swirling and coming from the right in the wake of Hurricane Helene, and as millions are in the path of this hurricane, Hurricane Milton. Watch.
For the last few weeks, there's been a reckless, irresponsible, and relentless promotion of disinformation and outright lies that are disturbing people. It's undermining confidence in the incredible rescue and recovery work that has already been taken and will continue to be taken. And it's harmful to those who need help the most. There is simply no place for this to happen. Former President Trump has led the onslaught of lies. Now the claims are getting even more bizarre. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congresswoman of Georgia, is now saying the federal government is literally controlling the weather. We're controlling the weather. It's beyond ridiculous. It's got to stop. Moments like this, there are no red or blue states. There's one United States of America, where neighbors are helping neighbors. Volunteers and first responders are risking everything, including their own lives, to help their fellow Americans.
To tell the truth that there will be bad consequences. Republicans lost both those elections, by the way. And so now here we are watching Hurricane Milton hitting Florida while still dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Helene in the southeast. And I keep thinking of that Ronna Romney McDaniel clip, because you've got government officials of both parties and apolitical civil servants struggling to combat the rampant misinformation that far-right politicians, pundits, and influencers are spreading about the storms and disaster response. From Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene posting repeatedly about they can control the weather, to Elon Musk, the diehard Trump-supporting owner of the website, formerly known as Twitter, using his site and his personal account to spread lies that officials say are hampering recovery efforts. Listen to some of the lies that Congressman Chuck Edwards decided he needed to rebut. To be clear, he's a Republican whose district covers some of the parts of North Carolina that were worst hit by Helene. He felt the need to tell his own constituents that no, Hurricane Helene was not geoengineered by the government to seize and access lithium deposits in Chimney Rock, adding, quote, nobody can control the weather. He also stressed that FEMA has not diverted disaster response funding to the border or foreign aid. More on that particular lie in a moment. Also stating that no, FEMA is not going to run out of money and that FEMA cannot seize your property or land. That's a conservative Republican congressman trying to save his constituents from disinformation spreading primarily among Republicans and conservatives on social media. He's not alone. When social accounts started spreading a false rumor that FEMA was hiring private security contractors in Florida to keep evacuees away from their homes, well, it was debunked online by Christina Pushaw, a staffer for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, saying spreading lies like this could have serious consequences. If people in an evacuation zone see this and decide not to evacuate, despite warnings from state and local emergency management, they are unnecessarily putting their own lives and lives of first responders at grave risk. If Pushaw's name sounds familiar, it's because she has spent much of her career spreading anti-Semitic, anti-gay, anti-media conspiracy theories and fake news. She helped popularize the term groomers, a disgusting term, to condemn anyone critical of Florida's Don't Say Gay law. Now, imagine how bad the misinformation has to be for Christina to Pushaw to say enough is enough, you're endangering people's lives. See the problem here, right? And of course, the ultimate example of this is the big lie circulating about FEMA.
Kamala spent all her FEMA money, billions of dollars, on housing for illegal migrants.
Housing assistance under FEMA, almost any reasonable person would think would be available for Americans who are displaced from their houses in a time of disaster, but that has been used on illegal immigrants.
How can we afford to give billions of dollars to illegal immigrants in this country, but we've got to go back to the well to provide disaster relief for our own citizens? That's a disgrace.
Look, they can't even take care of people in North Carolina from a hurricane because they're too busy spending our taxpayer dollars taking care of illegal aliens.
This is the Biden-Harris administration caught red-handed dedicating a massive amount of money that was supposed to be there for emergency relief for Americans in North Carolina, Georgia, and elsewhere to dispense to illegal immigrants, while hurricane-ravaged victims all over the country are left out to dry.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, War, Peace, and the Presidency. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Hurricane Milton comes just 2 weeks after Hurricane Helene battered Florida and other southeastern states, killing at least 230 people. A new analysis by the group World Weather Attribution finds the burning of fossil fuels has made highly destructive storms like Helene more than twice as likely.
It's been one of the most disturbing aspects of this election season about Trump's rise in politics is how we seem to have set aside the values that people like Dan stood for and Bob stood for and that I was taught, and those didn't used to be Republican and Democratic values. I mean, it used to be we'd have arguments about tax policy or foreign policy, but we didn't have arguments about whether you should tell the truth or not. We didn't make excuses for people who just violated basic norms of treating people fairly and with respect. I mean, just last week, I talked about this. We had one of the deadliest hurricanes in American history. The beautiful town of Asheville, North Carolina, one of my favorite places in the country. Spent time there, amazing people, devastated, hundreds of people killed. And President Biden and Vice President Harris were down there meeting with local officials and comforting families, asking how they could help. And Donald Trump at a rally just started making up stories about the Biden administration withholding aid from Republican areas and siphoning off aid to give to undocumented immigrants. Just made the stuff up. Everybody knew it wasn't true. Even local Republicans said it was not true. And now the people of Florida are dealing with another devastating storm. And I want you to watch what happens over the next few days, just like the last time. You're going to have leaders who try to help, and then you have a guy who will just lie about it to score political points, and this has consequences. Because people are afraid, and they've lost everything, and now they're trying to figure out, how do I apply for help? And some of them may be discouraged from getting the help they need. The idea of intentionally trying to deceive people in their most desperate and vulnerable moments. And my question is, when did that become okay? I'm not looking for applause right now. I want to ask Republicans out there, people who are conservative, who didn't vote for me, who didn't agree with me. I had friends who disagreed with me on every issue. When did that become okay? Why would we go along with that? I mean, if your coworkers acted like that, they wouldn't be your coworkers very long. If you're in business and somebody you're doing business with just outright lies and manipulates, you stop doing business with them. Even if you had a family member who acted like that, you might still love them, but you tell them you got a problem. And you wouldn't put them in charge of anything. And yet, when Donald Trump lies or cheats or shows utter disregard for our Constitution, when he calls POWs losers or fellow citizens vermin, people make excuses for it. They think it's okay. They think, well, at least he's owning the libs. He's really sticking it to them. It's okay as long as our side wins. And by the way, I'm sorry, gentlemen, I've noticed this especially with some men who seem to think Trump's behavior, the bullying and the putting people down, is a sign of strength. And I am here to tell you that is not what real strength is. It never has been. Real strength is about working hard and carrying a heavy load without complaining. Real strength is about taking responsibility for your actions and telling the truth even when it's inconvenient. Real strength is about helping people who need it and standing up for those who can't always stand up for themselves. That is what we should want for our daughters and for our sons, and that is what I want to see in a president of the United States of America.
Well, have you ever heard such a storm of lies as a result of hurricanes? And I'm not sure if we're going to get into this, but in Project 2025, their plan is to get rid of NOAA, the National Oceanic Administration. At any rate, this is the people who do all the weather forecasting and analysis of weather patterns and all of that. They want to get rid of the National Weather System so that when a hurricane like these two hurricanes that bore down on Florida and our southeastern coast, you wouldn't know. They wouldn't have any way of telling you, you need to evacuate. And your zone, if you don't evacuate, they said, you will die because of the large storm surges they were expecting in that. And then you have people coming out and saying, well, we don't want you to have these agencies because they're saying that these horrific storms that are all over the country, not just the hurricanes. Over the world. That's true. All over the world. I mean, you hear about what's going on in Europe and Africa and other places, but they're saying, we don't want you to say it's because of climate change and the burning of fossil fuels, because we want to protect the petroleum industry. This is so crazy. And then to get up behind a podium and say, the Democrats are not sending aid to our citizens what are they doing? They're sending it to undocumented migrants, or they're not coming to the Republican areas and giving aid there. How crazy can you be? How crazy can this be? I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So, honey, what do you have to say about this?
You about said it all. I mean,
this is just, I'm beside myself.
well, I'm sure you are. And, you know, the thing that keeps resonating in my mind is what is it going to take for America? And I'm talking about that part of America that just excuses everything that Donald Trump and these Republicans are doing, knowing that is wrong. When nobody controls the weather other than God.
That's right.
And they're thinking that they can convince people that the Democrats control the weather and getting rid of Noah. Yeah, I mean, what 149 people were killed in this thing.
It's over 200.
Wonder how many would be killed if they got rid of Noah. It makes no sense. And the wild thing is these Republicans are not hiding what they're doing. They're telling you to your face that the government isn't sending money down here when all the Republicans in power down there are saying, yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
They're
Stop
doing
all
a great
that.
job.
Stop all that, because you're hurting people. People gonna get killed if they listen to you and all that. And can you not see? Cannot people see that the former president, he says, I'm down here. Where's Joe Biden and all that? Well, the big thing about him being down there, he got no power to do anything.
No,
all he's doing is interfering with the rescue efforts and all that kind of thing. And it's absolutely astounding and amazing. And I just scratch my head, I shake my head, and I say, I just don't understand how anybody can support somebody like that.
You know, the governor said right after Helene, please don't come down here right now. We're trying to, recover. We're trying to rescue. We're trying to, deal with this, come after we get things settled a little bit. And what did Trump do? He came right in to the middle of the rescue, interrupting the efforts to, try to recover and rescue. But, the thing that I really wanted to point out was what President Obama said. When did this become okay? When did we decide that we're going to let that go? We're going to just let it go. Act like it's not wrong, or let that, we can accept that.
And put somebody like that in charge of the country. It's absolutely amazing. Now, when I'll do a disclaimer. I mean, I'm not telling you who to vote for. Right. I'm asking, how can you vote for? You vote whoever you want. I mean, if you get our purpose, give you the information. Yes. Marvel's giving you the information. Every time we come here, we got news. And then if you take in the information and you still say, okay, well, I'm still for him and all that, understand that we are in spiritual warfare.
Oh, yes.
And you can believe what you want to believe, but there are consequences.
Yes, severe consequences. So anyway, 2 hurricanes in 2 weeks. I mean, not little hurricanes, devastating hurricanes in 2 weeks. All the scientists say that this kind of weather is the result of climate change. The warm waters in the ocean are building up this kind of horrific weather. And if you don't believe that, I don't know what to tell you. But then to have people lie and endanger other people's lives. They said that one guy was, I guess it was on Twitter X, he posted that his father believed Trump that FEMA didn't have any money, and he was afraid to apply for aid. His house had been washed away, and he was afraid to apply for aid because he believed that big lie. I'm going to have to let it go. You got anything else, honey?
I mean, in reference to that story, you say, I mean, give me a break. I mean, some of that's got to be on you. I mean,
well, and you know what? That's the whole thing. People don't think with their own minds. They don't use their own common sense. You know, even if I thought maybe they had run out of money because Trump said they had run out of money, I would still be going over there trying to find out if I could get some because my house washed away.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Who would say, well, I'm just not going to apply for any funds? To me, that makes no sense. But apparently, there are a lot of people out there that they don't need sense.
Or they don't have any. I'm not sure.
I believe whatever
somebody tells me. Yeah.
All righty. Thanks for the Gap News. And that's what, like I said, you know, we give you information and you know, you have to decide whether you want to believe it or not. We try to put it in context with the word, and then we have to move on because, you know, there's some people you can't convince of anything. Donald Trump seems to be able to convince people.
He can convince you of it. He can convince some people of everything. Right. Don't even have to make sense. Sister Michelle said that was some good Gap News.
Well, it was.
Thank you, Sister Michelle.